greatest impact that Rich Mullins had on me was not his music, although it did have tremendous impact, but it was how he treated me when I was 13 years old. So my sister and I had an opportunity to see Rich when I was 13, and it was through the local Christian radio station who got us there, and we got to be part of helping set up, and we got to be part of a potluck meal before the concert. And at that stage in my life, I was a very timid kid. My family had been through a lot. I was going through a lot at that time, and I was terrified of my own shadow. I couldn't talk to anybody. And so my sister was probably my security blanket during that time. And we sat together for this meal, but I got up to grab something and we got separated. Somebody sat beside her. So in panic, I positioned myself as far away from people as I could against the back wall. And a couple of minutes later, Rich sat down across from me, which was both amazing and terrifying as a 13-year-old who didn't know how to talk to people. And my favorite recording artist is sitting across from me. It was beautiful and terrifying. And the only thing that I could think to strike up a conversation about was to ask about his dogs, because I was asking about Curry, who I knew from the Winds of Heaven album cover, because Bear was outside, and I think it was Beaker's puppy, Jordan. They were outside. Curry was not, so I asked him about Curry. And so he just started sharing about, what was going on in his life, the move from Nashville to Wichita. And he was talking to me like any friend. Like I was worth talking to. And there's so much more to that story that I can share another time. But anyway, so I was very much a nerd, still am, but especially then. And I went home that night and I typed up 13 pages of notes from this concert. And so I have a lot of these details still, which is amazing. One of the things is after the concert, I went to talk to him again. I kind of wanted an autograph and was too afraid to ask for an autograph, so I just sort of stood there awkwardly. And again, he just sort of, one of the things I wrote in that long description was he seemed to gravitate toward those of us who were very awkward. He gravitated toward the weird people, the people who were just kind of hanging back. He definitely seemed to gravitate toward that, enough so that I noticed it as a 13-year-old. And so he asked me if I wanted an autograph because I wasn't going to ask him for one. And then he started sharing again. He started sharing a book he was reading that he thought we might like. And he noticed that my camera quit working during the concert. I had this little 110 camera with the flash attachment. You had to put those on there. And it quit working during the concert. And for some reason, he noticed that. And I remember thinking at the time, why would you notice me? There are people in my own life who don't notice me day to day. And so Rich made me feel seen. He talked to me like a friend, even though I was a stranger. And so his words gained a lot of weight with me that day. A couple of years later, got to see him again, and he still remembered my sister and me. And again, at that point, it didn't even matter that it was Rich Mullins, except that I knew that he would have seen a whole lot of people in those past 2 years. And it blew me away that there would be anything memorable, about me or my sister. But he made me feel seen during a time in my life that I felt incredibly unseen. And so, again, I paid attention to what he said in his songs, between his songs in the concerts, the things that he wrote. And that really, it profoundly shaped my faith over the next number of years. And many years later, when my life was in a very bleak place and my thoughts were in a very bleak place, I started to, I believed the love of God for everybody else, but I was really starting to doubt the love of God for me because of how broken I was. And one of the things that reached into that darkness was realizing that Rich struggled too, and that struggle, he wrestled it out in his writing. That's where songs came from, wrestling these things out. When he was struggling, God used him to reach into my life as a 13-year-old. So my struggles were not an indication that God was done with me. They were also something that God was going to use in a huge way. So that became how I have been living my life. I believe that ministry is how you treat the people around you. That's something that Rich would share, I remember. And so his impact to me is how how his ministry was in just being kind to a 13-year-old kid. And now that's become a part of the way that I treat those around me and want to help people feel seen so that they can truly believe the love of God for them as well. So that's his greatest impact in my life.
There's a wideness in God's mercy I cannot find in my own, and he keeps his fire burning to melt this heart of stone, keeps me aching with the yearning, keeps me glad to have been caught in the reckless rage and fury that they call the love of God. Now I've seen no band of angels, but I've heard the soldier's song. Love hangs over them like a banner. Love within them leads them on to the battle, on the journey, and it's never gonna stop. Ever widening their mercies in the fury of his love. Joy and sorrow are this ocean, and their every ebb and flow. Now the Lord, the door is open that all hell could never close. Here I'm tested and made worthy, tossed about but lifted up in the reckless rain.